Hey everybody, it's Mike. Here in front of me I have not one, but two Case 1840 twin pumps. Now, why would I have two? Well, a couple years ago on a Facebook group, a guy had advertised two spare Case 1840 twin pump cores. Both had drive problems and he was selling them for cheap. Now, these usually bring at least $1,000 core. I didn't pay anything near that, and I picked them up mainly because I knew I was diving into this project. So this is the one that actually came from my machine. It has no drivability issues that I noticed. This one, I believe, has the left side drive was whiny. I think he said left. I'd have to go back and check. But the biggest issue here, and this is common on the 1840, the coupler wearing the splines of the drive. I don't know if you can tell, but this pump has basically a brand new shaft in it. My pump, the shaft splines aren't too bad, but the splines in this coupler are almost completely gone, and I actually had to use a puller to pull it off. So I did pick up another new aftermarket coupler. The Case one's 500 bucks. I don't even know if there's any difference, as I suspect sometimes they're relabeled parts, but this one should do me just fine. These rubbers are supposed to be pressed in there, but in order for me to get my pump off my machine, since this was basically jammed on the splines, ended up pulling the rubbers just pulled straight through the hole, and these were all still stuck to the flywheel. So I'm waiting on the 8 rubber bushings for this yet, but the reason I got both of these over here right now, because I want to practice on this pump before I take my pump apart. I'd originally gone into this thinking I was going to completely strip it, but after I'm a little gun shy doing that because I'm not sure it's really necessary. I actually got in touch with a Case instructor back, I don't know, when he used to teach, but they used to tear these down in class. He used to teach the equipment technicians. And he really said there really isn't any common areas of leakage on these other than these spools up top, which I think the back one, front one, back, was leaking on this one. So we're definitely going to address that. The bearing here, I don't trust because this pump, the bolts were loose and was banging around. So at a minimum, I'm going to pull the shaft out, replace the bearing, replace the seal, and replace the seals in the spool. I think this one may have a leak between the case halves. I need to look a little closer. But I'm going to practice all that on this one. And depending on how confident I feel, depending on how far we'll go on this one. So I do know that, I think Neil was his name. He said to replace this shaft, first thing you want to do is stand it up on end. So let's get it stood up on end. I'm going to slide mine over and out of the way. And these things are about 150 pounds. Let me reposition the camera. All right, I hope you guys can see good up there. I'm going to pull out this circlip that holds this front oil seal in. And then the seal here, you're basically hammering something into it. Pull it out. Let's try this. So under that is another circlip. You can see some trash down in there. All right, so yeah, this comes, well, that was easy. Straight on out of there. I probably could have just switched that bearing over and everything without buying one, but at least I know what I have. So. Now, he was telling me, I know you guys probably can't see that there's 3 little pins down in there. Not sure I can see those. All right, this is down in. So I'm going to try to use a screwdriver and point them out. Down right there's a pin, and there, and there. And those, he said you keep tension or preload on the shaft. So if those fall down, then it's not easy to get the shaft in. But at the very bottom is this. So right, theoretically I could just switch the shaft over right now since they didn't fall. But there's a little ring at the very bottom that you can slide up. Let me see if I can bring a pick in here. Okay. So this ring is supposed to slide up. Oh, it's too far down. There we go. Sorry. So he says if you pull this ring up, it's very difficult to do and film and hold a light. So this thin piece of ring, this ring here, will slide all the way up to hold these pins in place, and then it's pushed down when you put the new shaft in. So I'm just going to practice putting the shaft back in after I pulled that out. Well, not sure if that's right. That's why we're practicing. It's probably not right. There we go. Just didn't line up the. Yeah. There we go. Well, note to self, don't just hit on it and rotate it. Line up the splines. I'm putting this back in because then I'm going to pull the spools and possibly split the pump to see what I get into. Pull this. Okay. And I'll just temporarily put that in there to keep dirt out. I know it's all messed up and mangled, but it's just. Okay, so we got how to replace the shaft figured out. Now, okay. Oh, just a O-ring. This one's pretty flat looking. It should have paid attention to the orientation. I'm not sure that it matters. But I think the bigger thing is that these get stuck. Or the O-rings around these, I'm not sure how those come out. All right, so there's a notch on the bottom, so that's why it doesn't want to turn. But it should just pop up out of there. Yep, there we go. There's a pin down in there that this notch lines into. There's the O-ring. And then I read that the notch here, let me look again. That this notch and that notch need to line up when you put it back together. So I didn't know that. So you'd want to replace, there's a backup ring and a O-ring on that, and this O-ring on there. As long as there's no groove in there, you should be good. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back in. Okay. And this piece holds the body down. All right, so those are really the two main areas you would probably going to have to mess with on your machine. You're really probably not messing with anything else. I'm going to separate this pump based on my manual. Basically just shows removing these 12-point. I don't have 12-point sockets in standard, unfortunately, so I'm going to be stuck doing this by hand. Okay, there's one down here. I almost think setting this on in might be worthwhile, but I don't know. And then there's another kind of one on the other side in the same spot. And the only other one's this big nut top. Yep. It is 3/4. Yep, you can see the pump start to come apart. So 3 bolts. Comes. So that there is the charge pump. Oh, that one's no good because someone got that out of place when they installed it, when they had this thing apart. Well, this is the back of the dry shaft that we just took out. Some metal here. Just a little piece. I think it actually came off this charge pump housing, potentially. But that's kind of cracks me up. That was way out of place. That might be where some of my leak of my pump is coming from. There's those O-rings in there. There's one up top here too. It's kind of flat. So is this one. I don't know how you're supposed to line up this housing there. Kind of want to pull that off. Alright, so there's another O-ring on the back of the charge pump. The charge pump on this thing looks pretty good. Okay, the center pin is what drives the charge pump. It drops down into the groove. This is just a coupler basically. Yeah, just a coupler between the two front and rear pumps. It sits like that. So my concern is that pin. I think it falls into that hole in there. It's very difficult to feel. Yep, there it goes. So I could see that getting out of place real easy. Use this new flange. I think I'm going to try to pull this, put this on sitting upright. Use this as a stand. Come on. There we go. That actually works pretty good. And then don't forget your drive. We may have to rotate the pump. All right, that causes a whole nother. Okay. All right, that's in. The drive coupler's in. O-ring, smashed O-ring. Pump. That should be correct. Now, I think it's safe to say we learned quite a bit from this pump. I don't think we damaged anything really. It would obviously need fully stripped if you knew what you were doing. But I do think I need to split my pump, even though I don't really want to, because I think it's seeping in there on those O-rings. But we're gonna split the pump, replace the shaft, and replace these, and leave everything else be. But I'm gonna, off camera, I'm gonna clean this pump all up real good before we start tearing into that one. And then I'll bring you back on my actual pump. I'm just gonna put it right back where it was. Well, what I said, I need to clean this thing up. That's what I need to do before I tear into it. I want to get it about clean enough to where I can paint it. So I'm gonna do that off camera. You guys don't need to watch that. All right, so I got it mostly clean. Since you guys saw the shot of this pump from vertical, I'm gonna show you from the side. Oh, these caps that I bought, they swell and then they don't stay on. There's only 3 bolts to get the pump split. I think this housing, I thought it came off, but it seems different, like it doesn't. If you look, it's different than the other one a little bit. That's like it's built onto that pump. That one's kind of flat, not too bad. That's definitely part of the pump, so that's interesting. A little pin that comes out. So I don't know if it's better to put that all in here or not. Probably not. Right, I bought an entire seal kit and I probably didn't need to. It's part number 4510018. I didn't know how deep I was going to go into this. According to this, 2 O-rings for that are right here. Yep. I'm going to put Vaseline here so they don't come out. Yeah, those are quite a bit taller, so I could see how those other ones could be leaking. This one's square cut. And I don't see that it has that big O-ring like the other one did. Just don't like this. Wish this thing wasn't so heavy. It'd be a lot easier. All right, new plan. Okay, I think this is a lot better plan. I'm gonna lower this down. Doing things the hard way. Okay. Now I can drop it on there smoothly. Not have to worry about messing something up. All right, O-ring, pin, everything's still on. Down. All right, this makes it feel a whole lot better. Go. And the spline has to align. So imagine I'm going to have to turn the pump. There we go. And hopefully to drop the rest of the way. Yep. Here she goes. There she is. All right. All right. Put the bolts in. All right, it's back the following day. We're gonna get back to finishing up this pump. We still gotta pull the dry shaft out of this one and swap it with the other pump and get the bearing replaced. So we gotta get this seal out now. Gotta just drive a screwdriver into it and pry it out. Well, interesting. That one may have had a circlip on it, I just didn't notice. Get that second circlip out. And then the dry shaft should pull straight up. There we go. Bearing feels okay. Let's see. It's a different brand than what the other one had. I don't think it's OEM. We're going to leave that one on because that one's going to go in the other pump. I'm going to pull this one back out once again, compare the shafts, make sure they're identical. Right. Shafts look identical. I don't see any reason not to swap it. This shaft on the right's the one that came out. The splines are worn, but they're not super bad. But this shaft is definitely better. So I got to take this bearing off, and I got a new bearing to put on it. The brand of this bearing is the same. I got one from Case, and it's part number 84330083, and it's a SKF Explorer brand, made in Italy, exact same as that one. Okay, I got it over here on the press. This should be pretty easy. Yep. It's that lower snap ring. I'll go wash this all up and get it nice and clean, and we'll get the new bearing ready to put on. Hey, got the shaft cleaned up over here on the bench or shop press. And here's the new bearing, still sealed. Got this out of my scrap pile. It will press on the inner race, so we're not pressing through the bearing. And actually, these are some big old lathe cutters I don't use anymore. Should be good. Yep. We got enough room to get our O-ring on, or sorry, circlip on, and we can go back together. Everything's perfectly clean. I'll put a little bit of oil on this bearing surface and the splines. Gotta rotate this to get the splines aligned. My daughter's playing with my jack in the background. That's why you hear the noise. snap ring that holds the bearing down. Oh, got to get the small snap ring on top of the shaft. Almost forgot another part. This is the one that you had to remove to get the bearing off. I'll show you guys here once I get it on. So I just put that small snap ring on, goes on top of the bearing, the big snap ring that holds the bearing in. Alright, got some Vaseline all over the shaft. The new seal has lubricant in the lip, which is really important. We're going to slide it down over very carefully and make certain we don't roll the lip of the seal. There we go. And then luckily I found this driver that was kind of machined down to fit. And I think it'd be perfect to get that tap down in place. Here you can see the O-ring groove is visible now. There it is. All right, shaft swapped with new bearing. Last thing we're going to do to this pump is change the seals in these spools. Very common leakage area. It's a O-ring way up there. Probably should have just pulled this whole mechanism off first. Yep, there's the O-ring. That baby's about worn through here up on top. You can see that where the spring has been wearing into the housing. This one will lift out like the other one did. Yep. Let's see how much wear is on the top of that guy now. All right, so I took the other spool assembly out of that extra pump and it's in better condition in every way I can tell possible. So it's only got a little bit of a groove here. I'm just gonna swap that assembly into this one. Everything appears to be exactly the same. New backer and O-rings right there. Backing ring. O-ring. Clean the the backing ring. Did I drop an O-ring? Oop, probably did. Here's a backing ring. Actually going to put the O-ring on first. Okay. Then on top of it goes the backing ring. Because the pressure is going to be this way, the backing ring is going to be where the seal wants to push against. Roll that on. This is a one-piece backing ring. Right. And then this slot here aligns with the pin down in there. Put some oil on our O-rings, or Vaseline, I mean. Okay, everything looks clean. Tap that down. Make sure your pin's aligned, and we are in this case. There we go. All right, should be good to go. Okay, on the spool, again, there's a backer ring, single split one, O-ring, clean the groove. Okay, I got O-ring, backing ring. Backing ring's more of a square. Put the O-ring on first. It sits at the bottom. Backing ring sits up on the top. So pressures be pushing from the bottom. And this backing ring is not a split one, so you have to roll it on carefully. It'll stretch a little, but you don't want to stretch it too much. It kind of wants to go inside out too. I really don't want to do that either. Come on, get on there. There we go. There we go. Kind of let it reshape itself back down. Now the manual makes a comment about the cutout and where it needs to align. I don't see any difference in the spool itself, so I don't understand why that matters, but I'm going to check the manual again. This is the cutout I'm talking about. Yeah, the manual clearly states to make sure the notch in the spool is in alignment with the notch in the body. So this is the wrong body, but they would line up. I don't get why that matters, but that's what we'll do. Manual also shows having all of this on first. I'm going to assemble this after the fact because I don't like this sequence. This stuff will fall down in there. I'm going to lubricate the spool. The notch, the body is there, so we're going to do what the manual says. All right. So now, the spring. Well, got this wrapped up here. Snug this down roughly where it was. There we go. Perfect. Shaft replaced, spool seals replaced, center replaced. I'm going to clean it up, paint it, and get it ready to put on. All right, I'm ready to give this guy a coat of paint. Let's start with some primer. All right, get the top coat knocked out. All right, guys, while I wait for my parts to come in, I need to focus my attention to the mounting plate on the pump. Now this plate mounts to the bell housing on the back of the engine. So it bolts right there. And then the plate holds the pump with these two threaded holes. And you can actually see the triangle pattern of the pump. The problem with this plate is as the pump bolts either break or vibrate loose, the pump starts to hang down. So it's going to go that way. Well, what's happened is basically wore an outline of the pump all the way around, except for at the top it's basically smooth because it's going to lift off, but it's going to create this unevenness. So if I bolt this tight, the pump is going to be at an angle because of this. And what I did was I got a dial indicator all the way around, and it's within 1/1000th in all directions. And I borrowed this called a super spacer, basically a rotary table indexer, and it's gripping the center hole. So I'm going to machine this flat. We can see how much I can run the mill back and see just how much wear is in that area. So let's zero it out. I'm going to run it up over, let's see, a lot. So that's 0. So it drops. Well, it goes up first because there's a ridge. 5, 10, 15. So at least 15 thousandths Well, it's not a terrible amount, but there's no reason I can't flatten this out. So I'm gonna get the cutter in there and then we'll get to cutting. All right, cutter's in. I'm gonna kind of do a little practice cut here. Make sure that's level. Pretty even so far. Okay, that's even enough. All right. So interestingly enough, you can see the exact profile of the pump. So pretty confident that when I'm doing a workout good, I'm going to bring it all the way to the edge. Make a little bit deeper cut this next time, but not much. I don't want to knock it out of alignment. It's a lot of leverage here, and those jaws, if they get hit, it'll knock it out pretty easy. All the way to the edge. Mostly to the edge. Lock everything down. All right, here we bring it up a little. There we go. Not too much. That whole plate is singing. Still a good pattern of the pump. Bring her up. All right, finally got it done. I don't know how many times this thing went around, but I could only take off about 1 to 2 thousandths at a time. It took forever to clean up. The bottom was just kept over and over and over. I had to kept taking more up at top, and around the bolt holes were low. But I'm confident this is very, very flat now. So that should help. Now that the whole pump flange will be contacting the plate, should have it, more stationary and not move around. Surprisingly, the pump flange itself seems to be flat. So most of the wear happened here, it appears, or the pump flange just kind of wore evenly across the whole thing. The nice thing also is the inside diameter of this is a little, very, very slight ridge. But now that the pump is going to drop in about 30 thousandths deeper, it's going to engage into this area that's never had any wear on it. So that's going to help center the punch, or center the pump. So this is actually going to help me in 2 ways. Concentrically with the hole, because it's going to drop in, and then also alignment this way. I'm glad that worked out so well. I was a little nervous if I could get this set up properly to where I didn't get it off one way or the other. So pretty happy with it. Well, my parts finally showed up. They're the 8 rubber bushings that go in the coupler here. So these can be a little difficult, I guess, to get in here. I've never put them in myself. I think I'm going to use a socket. It's a 3/4 inch socket that I push kind of right in the center, but yet not on the center metal piece here. And the manual says don't use any petroleum, but you can use water or soap, I would guess. So I'm going to go bring this over to the arbor press and see if I can just press them in with that. Put some soap on it. Nope, not even close. Got plenty of power, it's just not even coming close to going down in there. I'm gonna flip the socket around, get a little bit more surface area. I know it's gonna push on the metal at first, but it seems to deform pretty easily. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I'm real happy with that. That worked really well. Be very difficult to get these in without some sort of press because they're so springy. Not all the way through yet. Nope, I pushed it too far. Yeah, I've been doing it hard the whole time. All right, finally ready to install the coupler. And I think I may have addressed this earlier, but I would have gone with the newer style plastic couplers if my flywheel had an SAE bolt pattern in it. But none of the off-the-shelf flywheel couplers would fit because this is a non-ASC pattern. I'm pretty much stuck with this unless I wanted to machine the flywheel or get a different flywheel. And I figured that the bolts coming loose on the pump is the primary cause for the spline failure. And again, I don't think I'm going to use this machine enough to matter. So we're going back with the original parts. We'll run those up with an impact gun first, and then we'll get them torqued. These are 55 foot-pounds. Okay, here's our resurfaced plate. Threw a coat of paint on it. There you go. Paint's 90% dry. Torque on these are 35 foot-pounds. All right, this is the lower pump support bracket. It supports the tail end of the twin pump. Very important that this is installed. Sometimes you'll see machines without it installed, and it definitely will have pump bolt issues if this isn't on there. It says to use Loctite. It says 271, I'm using 277. They're both a red. Didn't specify a torque on these, it says to tighten them. Right. We'll run it up with this. Wrench on them. That one I can't get a wrench on. It was pretty tight with this gun. That should be good. There's another bracket, like a 90-degree bracket that gives you some of the adjustment in that. I think we need to get some of that moly coat on the spline here. And then I think we're going to be ready to get the pump actually mounted. All right, I got the moly coat. This is the product, the repair manual specs. It's got molybdenum, anti-wear paste basically. Getting the pump on's one of those big moments, because another big part of it under my belt. Some more. Wish I had that hook in the center of the pump. It'd be more level. bit more down. There it is. All right, so these bolts, it also calls for Loctite 271, and it's I think 90 foot-pounds is the torque. I'll be a little bit more cautious not cautious, but particular how I put the Loctite on. I don't even know if I can get my torque wrench on there. Yeah, I think I got a setup here that'll work. It's tight. Oh, it feels good to have that on there. See if we can get that bottom brace hooked up, and then I'll let the pressure off of it. I got all my bolts for this lower bracket. Trying to remember how it went. Okay, so. And these are all supposed to get Loctite too, but I'll come back and put it on after I get this roughly into position. Alright, I'm using a really special high grade. This is more than a grade 8 washer. I ordered those just to have some in a few different sizes. Get the Loctite on these. Put a little bit of pressure on with the jack, just kind of equal out the weight. Trying to get this on there as square as possible. The pump, that is. let her down. Perfect. All right, guys, I'm gonna call it the end of this video. Next video, I'm gonna get the rest of the hydraulic lines on. I got some lines I need to order, mainly the supply and return. They got some big rub marks in them. All of the drive lines are good. They're sitting over there. And then I'm not sure how far we'll get from there, but stay tuned. Please give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.